Hello there, it's Sarah from Paper Lovely. Thanks for joining me today. I have got part 1 of my 10 cards 1 kit using the Spellbinders January 2019 card kit, and I'm going to jump right in here to card number 1. Now before I got started, I did go ahead and cut out all of the dies with a bunch of different colors so I would have some options to play around with when I was planning out my cards. I wanted to let you know I have added in some new cardstock. If you've been following me for any length of time, you know I am an MFT cardstock person. And one of the reasons I loved it was because there were so many variety of colors and I could get sort of a sampler pack. So that way I wasn't having to buy 10 or 15 or 25 all of one color. They have recently cut down on their colors that they're carrying. So it looks to me by about half. So I don't know if they were trying to get rid of overhead or maybe people just really weren't buying it. But I like to have a lot of different variety of colors, especially if I'm going to do a lot of die cutting like this. And also because I really like to match my card bases as close as I can to any pattern paper that I'm using. So I will continue to use all of the colors that MFT is carrying, but I have been looking around to try and find another company that has a high quality cardstock in more variety of colors. And I have found Paper Tray Ink, and I have to say so far I'm really happy with the quality of this cardstock. I've only used it on a few cards, but they have a great variety of colors. I went ahead and picked up, they have 2 different sets of cardstock, and if you get both 1 and 2, that'll give you 1 of every color. So I've gone ahead and done all my samples with them and laid them next to all of my MFT samples, and there are a few that are duplicates, but for the most part, even if it's subtle, they are all different colors, save maybe 5 of them. So I'm gonna probably continue, at least for now, to use both MFT and Paper Tray Ink, and that way I should be able to find the different colors that I'm looking for. Okay, so after all of that, I'm gonna let you know the actual colors that I've used here. So for the typewriter, I've used MFT's Poppy, and then I've also used whipped cream for the pages, and I've used that for all of the pages for all of the typewriters. And then I also used Sour Apple, which is the lightest green color you can see in with the leaves there. Then from Paper Tray Ink, I have used Stormy Sea, which is the gray that I've used behind the cutout keys on the typewriter. Aqua Mist, which is the lightest teal color of the flowers, and Tropical Teal, which is the darker teal color of the flowers. I'm also using that medium green leaf color, which is called New Leaf. So for putting the card together, you saw there I grabbed one of those pages I had cut out and I stamped the sentiment, "I adore you." I used my VersaFine Onyx black ink for that. And then I added a little bit of the double-sided tape that comes in the kit just along the bottom edge of that letter, and I used that to attach the letter to the back of the typewriter. I then trimmed off a piece of that gray cardstock, added a little bit of art glitter glue, and placed that behind the opening for the keys. I added some pop dots behind the typewriter and a little strip of some Scotch foam tape at the top of the letter. And here I'm taking these flowers and leaves and just laying these out until I get a design that I'm happy with. So I figured the easiest way to lay this out would be to put the typewriter down first. Because I only have a few foam dots under there, I'm going to be able to slide those leaves and flowers underneath really easily. And then I'm going to take my art glitter glue and I will go ahead and place those down, and I'm going to leave them so that they have a little bit of movement. I'll just put a little glue on the very bottom of the stems. and that way I can pull those up and sort of move them around to get a little bit more dimension on the front of the card. And then here I decided I would go ahead and pop up that heart in the center of the flower. So I just cut off a tiny triangle of my Scotch foam tape. I'm going to place that down with the heart on top. Finally, I did want to bring in a little bit more of that darker teal. I love that combination with the red of the typewriter. So I thought I would add a few of those smaller hearts. But what I ended up doing was just grabbing one of them and adding that onto my letter. For the inside, I'm working on my trusty Nina panel trimmed to 4x5 1/4. I'm going to stamp out that sentiment, "All you need is love." I went ahead and added some of that double-sided tape to the back of that panel, and I'm going to place that on the inside of my card base. And then I felt like this still needed something more, so I grabbed a scrap piece of that striped pattern paper that I used on the front, added again some of that double-sided tape on the back of that, and I trimmed that down so it would match my panel exactly. I'm just going to peel off the backing and I'll place that down towards the bottom there. And that will complete card number 1. So here for card number 2, I've stuck in a still shot because I lost all of my filming of this card, and it's really frustrating because this is my favorite out of all 10. But I'm going to talk you through here quickly what I did. I cut out the typewriter from Paper Tray Ink Aqua Mist and then backed that again with that smoky shadow. I went ahead and grabbed some of the ephemera pieces, and I thought it would be cute to have the heart coming out of the typewriter. So I first added that red heart and then thought it needed a little something more. So I've added the two lighter pink colors behind it, and I have all of those popped up on the foam dots. So what I did was I placed the foam dots behind sort of the humps of each of the hearts. So I've really got a lot of dimension here, especially for that red heart. It's about 2 pop dots high. And then I also added some pop dots behind the typewriter so I would have that nice and even when I stuck it down. I also grabbed that Love ephemera piece and I added pop dots just under the V and the E, and then some liquid glue under the L and the O to place that on top of the typewriter and have everything be nice and even. I again grabbed some of my pre-cut leaves and flowers, and I used the MFT poppy, and that's the red flower, as well as the sour apple for the lighter green leaves. And then the darker leaf is called New Leaf from Paper Tray Ink, and the pink is called Pale Peony. So I've added those in and around, just popping out from the typewriter there, and placed those down with my art glitter glue, and then some of the flowers were on some pop dots as well. For the inside, I have gone ahead on a Nina panel trimmed to 4x5 1/4, and I've stamped out that sentiment, which reads, I Think I Love You a Little Bit More Each Day, and I used Fawn Minty Fresh ink for that. Since the front of my card was kind of busy, I decided to leave the inside with just the sentiment, add a little bit of that double-sided tape behind it, and I'm going to go ahead and pop that on the inside of the card base. And that will complete card number 2. For card number 3, I have left this really sweet and simple. I loved this dimensional sticker, both of the dimensional stickers actually that came in the kit, and I'm just going to let this one shine. So I grabbed that Love die cut sentiment, and I've added the Big Hugs and Kisses foam sticker on top of that. Here I'm going to lay that out and place the bear down towards the top of the card, and I'll grab my art glitter glue, place that behind my sentiment, and then place that down underneath the bear. I've again grabbed a Dina panel trimmed to 4x5 1/4. I'm going to stamp out the sentiment For You, and for that I'm using Fawn's Peachy Keen ink. And then I grabbed a leftover strip of some pink and white striped pattern paper, added some of the double-sided tape to the back of that. I'm going to place that along the bottom of this panel. Again, I've added some of that double-sided tape behind there. I'll peel away the backing and then place that on the inside of my card base. And that will complete card number 3. Okay, so here for card number 4, I decided I wanted to use that ephemera piece that is shaped like the cassette tape. And if you're old enough to remember cassette tapes, I remember they always came, or the blank ones always came with that sort of lined sheet of paper or sometimes a sticker that you could write down all of the songs that you had recorded so you would know what was on the tape. So I'm trying to mimic that here with my background. I've taken that black and white striped pattern paper and I've trimmed that down to 4x5 1/4. And I'm going to use all of the stamps that I can make fit in those white openings for my song titles. So I have done a lot of stamp surgery here. I've cut apart almost all of the stamps. That's okay. You can always place them back together again and you'll never know that they're cut apart. But I wanted my lines to be a little bit longer. I wanted to have, you know, a pretty full background. So a lot of the stamps I needed to put on one line instead of several. So here I've got all those lined up, and I'm going to stamp out this first section here with VersaFine Onyx Black ink. And then I've gone ahead and cleaned off my stamps really well. I wanted to have something on each of these lines. So at this point, what I ended up doing was taking sort of different sentiments and either mixing them together or moving them around or only using one or two of the different words in the sentiment just so that I wouldn't have any repeats. So yeah, I used the My and the Everything from Everything is Better with You by My Side. and then the always and the you from the It's Always Better With You. And then I'm going to finish that off here with the heart. And that way I've got something on every single line there. Next, I grabbed one of my journaling pens and I'm just adding the numbers 1 through 8. I'm going to add some ATG to the back of that. And I'll place that down on top of my card base. I'll go ahead next and add some pop dots to the back of that cassette tape. And then I'll place that on top of my card. Then I have some red and pink hearts. This is again MFT's Poppy and Paper Tray Inks Pale Peony. And I'm just sort of laying those around until I get something that I'm happy with. And then finally, I'll go ahead and place all of those down with my art glitter glue. For the inside, you can see there I had stamped out a sentiment and added some hearts, but I just didn't think it went right with the front of the card. So I ended up grabbing this Be Mine ephemera piece, added some art glitter glue to that, and placed that on the inside of the card. And that will complete card number 4. I'm keeping card number 5 really sweet and simple again. I'm going to use that included red card base. I've trimmed out the typewriter from this is Paper Tray Ink Stormy Sea for the outside of the typewriter, and then Smoky Shadow for the background of the keys. I will also pull in some hearts that I've cut out of that aqua mist color. So I'm placing together my typewriter here. I'm just going to use one of the letters for some background. I've added that love die cut to the front of that, and I'm just going to have that peeking out from the top of the typewriter. I'll add some pop dots to the back of that love die cut there. And then again, I'm just playing around with those hearts until I get something that I'm happy with. And I'm going to go ahead and I'll glue this one down. And then I'm going to add some pop dots to the back of the typewriter. And I added a little of that double-sided tape behind the piece of paper. I thought if I had that down flat on top of the card, it would help that love pop out a little bit more. I'm not sure if it made that much of a difference or not. So I'll place that down here on the top of my card base, and then I will finish gluing down the rest of those little blue hearts. For the inside, I'm again on a Nina panel trimmed to 4x5 1/4, and I'm stamping out that sentiment love, hugs, kisses using Lawn Fawn's Peachy Keen ink. I have cut off a piece of that darker gray cardstock. That one is called Smoky Shadow. Added some double-sided tape to the back of that, and I'm going to place that along the bottom of this panel. I'll trim off the excess. Again, I'll add some of that double-sided tape behind the panel, and then add that to the inside of my card base. And that will complete card number 5. Here are a few close-ups of the finished cards. In the description box below, you'll find a link to my blog post, which has additional photos and links to the supplies I used. If you enjoyed the video, please leave me a comment or a thumbs up and subscribe for more. Thanks again for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.